on the dot. Thanks to my convenient on-screen timer. Hello, I am Super Train Station H. I'm an autistic gamer and writer, and today we are going to be playing some 35-year-old Game Boy games. We're going to be playing, well, firstly, we're going to be playing Alleyway, just a little warm-up game, just probably a single round just to break things in. Oh, and Clackaboy is saying Happy Wednesday. They are now enjoying a finely sliced oven-roasted turkey breast with mozzarella cheese wrap. I love wraps. I haven't had one in a while. I need to make some wraps. But yeah, so we'll be playing a little Alleyway, and our main game of the day is going to be Revenge of the Gator. I'll be playing the games on the Analog Pocket here. This is how we'll be playing the games. Straight from the original cartridges. I'll just drop this on the dock for now. So, but then after Alley, well, we have several magazines about our main game of the day, Revenge of the Gator. Revenge of the Gator is I've loved Kirby's Pinball Land since I first played it back in '95. One of our main games we've ever played on stream is Nintendo's Versus Pinball. Both of those were pinball games designed by HAL, and loving Kirby's Pinball Land, I didn't know that there was, until a few years ago, that there was a 1989, a launch year Game Boy game, also by HAL, and when just looking at a few moments of this game, I could see, like, oh, this is clearly the predecessor to Kirby's Pinball Land. It's an alligator-themed pinball game, and I've got Nintendo Power as well as a number of other magazines which cover and review Revenge of the Gator. And ironically, not ironically, but interestingly, this Nintendo Power also covers Tetris, which is kind of entered the gaming news cycle lately because someone got the first ever recorded instance of causing a human player to freeze Tetris, therefore beating the game by getting a score and a progress so high that the game just couldn't keep up anymore and actually crashed. But let's get started right at the beginning, as it should be, with Alleyway. Okay. Oh yeah, and I almost forgot. Clackaboy did remind me that I have to change my phone number due to all those absurd calls. Now, I have not had to change my phone number because after last week I stopped getting so many calls. But what did happen is they sent me, I guess, this box. I don't know how it got to me, considering that my address isn't on here, and I don't think I ever actually gave them my address. I don't know if they just got it through the, I don't know, the time when I called them hoping to get a free train DVD and got a bunch of creepy spam calls instead. But, it's off camera, actually, I was gonna use my box cutter, but I do have this pair of scissors. In probably 15 or 20 minutes, I'm going to open this up and see if there's anything inside it that's of interest. Now, I do have a friend who has, it's not like a X-ray, because you can't just have an X-ray in your home, but it's sort of a sonar thing. And I told him not to tell me what's in it, but if you see anything that looks like it could be dangerous, let me know and I'll call the police. But he said there's something dangerous in here, so I figured, why not just open it on stream, see if there's anything interesting inside. I mean, just the mystery alone probably makes it interesting enough, but for now, let's get back to... Okay, so we're back to Alleyway. Oh no, yeah, it's definitely nothing explosive. If it was anything dangerous, I would have called the police immediately. For those who are not familiar with my history with Alleyway, I got my Game Boy in '95. I mean, I got my Game Gear, my very first system, in '91 with Sonic the Hedgehog. I did not get a Game Gear until Game Boy until '95, and I had a couple of early. Well, the main launch window game was Super Mario Land, which was the first game I tried. Because I was used to Sega and Game Gear, I was not at all accustomed to Nintendo and Game Boy. So while I felt a sense of loyalty to Sega, I was not against Nintendo, I wasn't rooting against them or anything, and I was very interested in seeing how different video games could be on a different system by a different company. I wanted to see, how is Mario different from Sonic? Now, it was Sonic that got me interested in video games. I knew about Nintendo. I knew it was like, I knew about video games in Nintendo. I knew that Pac-Man was a video game that was popular sometime before I was born in the arcades. I knew that there was a Nintendo Entertainment System and that your parents help you hook it up. You know, the famous commercials. And I knew my parents would tell me about Atari, which is like one of the first video games. And, you know, I wasn't interested at the time. I just knew it was some kind of computer game thing that plugged into your television. It was the commercial for Sonic the Hedgehog that actually got me interested in video games. And, well, as a kid, I mean, I was an actor as a kid. And so I have some history with that. And a lot of what acting is, it's a lot of memorizing lines for commercials, sitting in waiting rooms before the auditions, and then never getting callbacks. And that's why you have to cast your net so wide and do so many different auditions. And for me, I remember seeing lots of kids in, lots of, for these roles that if you that need kids, if it's going to be a classroom scene or something like that. I just remember lots of kids having Game Boy and Game Gear, and I wasn't really that interested. I remember, I think once I tried a kid's Game Boy, and I was like, what is this thing? Like, I don't get it. But when I saw a commercial for Sega Genesis Sonic the Hedgehog, I was like, this looks cool. It's like a cartoon character, like Felix the Cat. This looks neat. So I told my parents about it. They got me a Game Gear. I was like, hey, Sonic's cool. I watch the Saturday morning cartoons. I watch the weekday morning cartoons. And then in '95, my dear aunt got me a Game Boy with it was a cross-country flight to my dear aunt's house. And I was very excited, not only because I get to go to a state I'd never been to before, but a part of the country I'd never been to before. By the way, I am from the United States. But also, it is an entirely new experience, because I knew that she had a Game Boy with a whole library of games that she, oh boy. Alright. It says scam likely. I'm not going to pick this up.
You have one new message.
Oh, it's this person again.
Train station. It is I, the advanced controller of the great currency that is the XO token, the inflation-free, non-legal...
What is this music?
Of the future, contacting you. White, my firstborn son who inherits my lofty
firstborn son.
Sweet offspring creature.
He keeps calling me his son.
Top of the most severely sacred of all mountains under the auspicious mark of the double rainbow.
What is he talking about?
Why in the holy heckies ain't you picking up the phone, you stupid short.
Why is there graduation music playing?
Anyway, I'm leaving this message to tell you two things. Thing number one, I know you have our big package, but you aren't ready for it yet. Please leave the big package uncut and fully intact until further notice.
Okay.
Second, I hate your stupid cell phone.
What's wrong with my
wasting
phone?
The minutes on my inter-membrane phone card to call it from the Type B parallel universe my digital consciousness presently resides in.
Digital consciousness.
So, I ain't calling you on your ugly little handheld computer anymore.
Good.
Bye-bye, little baby boy who will inherit my dowry and souvenir medallion.
Souvenir medallion?
Souvenir medallion.
What the heck?
Anyway, Toodles. You stupid animal. And I forgot to mention.
What?
By Hilfmir.
What? Okay, fine. Yeah, so they sent this box, and they said not to open it yet. So maybe this coming, I don't know. I'm just gonna wait till I get further instructions. So, but they, my friend scanned it. He did it it's not like an X-ray. It's like a sonar thing. And they said that there looked like there was nothing suspicious inside, so I'm really not concerned. Hey there, Similarian. Hey there, Azurest. I just got a message from the company that's been sending me all these spam calls lately. I didn't give them my address. Somehow they still got this package to me. I was going to open it on stream. I had the scissors right here, but they said not to open it. It's not ticking or anything. I don't think Jokey Smurf sent it over. But yeah, we're gonna resume this this match of Alleyway. Hey, there's Similarian. Oh, Clackerboy saying perhaps someday I can make the souvenir medallion the ultimate channel point redemption. Considering this company apparently deals in digital currency, I'm guessing the souvenir medallion is some sort of stupid NFT or something like that. Because he keeps mentioning this medallion, and I keep asking what's he talking about, and he won't give me a straight answer on anything. Like, honestly, this advanced controller person, or whatever they're called, like, they're the first person, being, whatever, that I've ever talked to, that the more I talk to them, and the more they say to me, the less I understand them, or what they want from me. So, I hope they don't expect me to send that package back to them, because there's not an address on it. I also, told them to make sure that there wasn't, like, money wrapped in tinfoil or anything like that, because I don't want them trying to use me as a money mule or something like that. But, yeah, so, my dear aunt got me a Game Boy with a whole library of games. What could I think of? Super Mario Land's the first I tried. Super Mario Land 2 is the second. There was the Game Boy version of Dr. Franken. There was Ninja Turtles Fall of the Foot Clan. There was a Ren and Stimpy platformer where you're playing as Stimpy in outer space. And what else was there? There was Q-Billion, which I thought was just called Billo at the time. There was Tetris, which I did not understand how to play. There was Pipe Dream. I think that's about all the games that I got with my Game Boy. But Alleyway was not among them. And when I was in college, my mom was in a thrift store. She saw a Game Boy Pocket for $5, back when retro gaming stuff was just sort of throwaway junk and not, you know, collector's items. And she had the foresight to get that. She had the foresight to get that Game Boy Pocket for me, which started kind of a renaissance of me, sort of going back, because I had done, you know, going back, getting NES, Super NES, getting old games for old systems, building up a bit of a collection. And now that I had a Game Boy Pocket, because I had my original Game Boy, and playing it was neat, but the Game Boy Pocket, even though it is still a black and white model system, it's so much more accessible in terms of the visibility of the screen. It's much more portable. At that point, the Game Boy I had was very delicate. The original model Game Boy I had, which was one of the several Game Boys that my aunt got me, because she got me a few so I could play multiplayer with my friends and family. Bless her. But what happened was, I was looking up, what are some early
when I learned
launch era Game Boy games,
like about
and I learned about, well, not it was quite launch era, but I played
when I learned,
Balloon
because
Kid.
I was
I did not
definitely
realize he
already
was
in
in college
college
by then. Now this is the bonus stage. You'll notice that the bricks actually bounce back off of the ball does not bounce the bricks back. The ball just passes directly through the bricks. I'm trying to clear them all as quickly as possible. So the bricks have no collision. I'm just trying to clear the figure on screen as quickly as I can. And if I manage, it's very difficult to get the ball into a good pattern so as that it will actually bounce properly. Hey there, Clackaboy. I don't know. I had a weird disconnect problem again. If it disconnects again, and I'm not back within 5 minutes, you can guess the stream's probably over. But if you follow my socials, I will keep up to date on website formerly known as Twitter, as well as Tumblr. If I have to leave my my stream, I cancel my stream for the day. But I'm not out to have a super long session. This was just sort of ice-breaking warm-up playing Alleyway. So I don't expect this game to go on that much longer. And once we lose that final ball, we will move on to our second game of the day, Revenge of the Gator for Game Boy. Another 1989, so now 35 years old this year, Game Boy title. And we'll do a little reading. Actually, why don't we, since I have several magazines, why don't we flip through the Nintendo Power first? Because that, I believe, does have some Revenge of the Gator coverage in there. And it'll give a little more context into some of the earlier days of the Game Boy. Now, when the Game Boy was announced, as I understand, well, gaming systems and hardware were not announced in the way we're used to today. The Nintendo Power editors and writers, that being the people within Nintendo of America who actually wrote Nintendo Power, because it was handled in-house. Nintendo, how they discovered that Game Boy existed was that they got a box from Nintendo NCL in Japan that just had a Game Boy and a bunch of games in it, and they said, hey, here's this new product we're making, review some of these games and do a preview feature. That's how the people at Nintendo of America learned of the existence of the Game Boy. It was like, just so, there was no build-up, there was no rumors, speculation. And then what Game Boy was, you have to remember, the closest thing to Game Boy at the time was theoretically the Milton Bradley's, what was that thing called? The Supervision? Not the Supervision, that was Watara's system they made in the 90s. There was some sort of Milton Bradley handheld from the late 70s or very early 80s that had interchangeable cartridges, but the screen was kind of built into the cartridges. Or the screen, no, it wasn't that the screen was built into the cartridges, it's just that the cartridge was served as the frame, the bezel for the system itself. It had custom buttons and printed in it for use with each game, which is an incredible thing to think of at the time. Azurus Odyssey was the, I think, 1969 or 1970 home console by Magnavox. I said Magnavox for some reason. I was thinking Ralph Bayer's prototype. So Ralph Bayer, so that's a B there. And his prototype was called the Brown Box because he decorated it with wood grain wallpaper. I said Magnavox instead of Magnavox. Now, it's kind of funny that Magnavox is one of those things that I love asking people, hey, do you know what Magnavox means? And they're like, no, what does it mean? I didn't realize it meant something. And like, Magna, great. Vox, voice, great voice. They're speakers. They make your voice louder. Great voice, therefore Magnavox. Because their first products were speakers. There's a lot of those acronyms that sort of get lost to history, like ADT. And in the United States, probably maybe all of North America, ADT, they provide security services. American District Telegraph. And then Sega, Service Games. They provided pinball machines and slot machines for the armed services. And it was originally an American company. It gradually, sort of very slowly, piece by piece, transformed into a Japanese company, but it was actually an American company. At one point, it was actually under it was under Gulf and Western, along with Paramount. And ironically, Paramount, later on in 2020, released the Sonic the Hedgehog movie. Though at that point, Sega and Paramount were completely separate entities. So the fact that Paramount ended up releasing the Sonic the Hedgehog movies was a total coincidence. I just realized I got a game over and then continued playing. Let's actually move on to our first magazine of the day. So here we got Tetris. This is one of the earliest Nintendo. I think this is like the second, maybe, Nintendo Power to mention the Game Boy. This is from December of 1989. So this is, this magazine turns 35 years old today, and I am older than this magazine. Good gravy. So here we've got a Game Boy update and more. So we'll look through here with emphasis on the parts of the sections that particularly focus on Revenge of the Gator, and then we'll move on to playing that as our main game of the day. So you got Tetris, Mind-Bending Madness, From Russia with Love. Just being from, the Soviet Union gave it a sort of mystique being during the Cold War. Oh yeah, I remember. We've looked at this magazine in the past. We've looked at this particular magazine. But we haven't. I didn't look at it for Revenge of the Gators, so sorry, Don. No, at the risk of sounding like the rest of the world, I want to say that I absolutely love Nintendo. It'd make me so happy if I could have the autographs and pictures of all the gameplay counselors. Is this possible? Donald L. Hubbard, Missoula yeah, so sorry, Don. There are so many gameplay counselors now that it's very difficult to send all pictures or autographs, but every issue we publish a few of their pictures along with interesting information. Video Spotlight. I will be 11 by the time I read this. Okay, 11, 20, 21, 11, 21, 31, 41, 41, 42, 43, 44, 45, 46. This person is 46 now. Hey, I'll be 11 by the time you read this, and I should be a power player. I might not solve games super fast. Once I do it once, I teach my I do it each and every time. My club's nickname is the Quadge Tricksters. We only have 2 members, but games are hard to get out here, and there aren't many people. I live on Quadjaline. Oh, hold on. This is Quadjaline. That's assuming that J is a hard J and not a soft J. That's pronounced like an H. Quadjaline, an island in the Marshall Islands, 2,400 miles southwest of Hawaii, and Quad is only a half-mile wide and less than 3 miles long with a population of around 2,000. My hobbies are Nintendo playing sports and riding my bike around our island with my friends. I also love to read. That's cool. Power player. Man, this is... Alright, so Village of Dew. So this is a game based on Willow, which I've never actually seen. Wasn't there like a Tetris? The Game Boy Blockbuster makes its NES debut. Yeah, so this is the version of Tetris that recently had it be for the first time ever a player, and I think he was only like 11 or 12 or something crazy like that, or like 15 tops. He was a younger teen, if that, or even a tween. But they were they beat Tetris. They made the game crash for the first recorded time it was ever recorded and proven, which has taken 35 years to actually happen, using extreme techniques, using the holding the controller upside down and doing all this crazy stuff I can't even hope to simulate with my... But... And then there was, I think, on Sky News, the news anchor basically sort of was basically disrespected the kid, saying like, oh, if you were my kid, I'd tell you to go outside and play outside. I'm like, it's the middle of freaking December. No, it's like this Christmas break. The kid's on playing video games on Christmas break. Give him what's he gonna do outside? You know, especially since a lot of places in the Western world don't get as much snow as they used to Christmas time. But big colorful graphics and a new dimension to Soviet-designed mind-boggler, Tetris. Now available for the NES. Already a hit on Game Boy, Tetris is a guaranteed winner on the NES screen. The tetrad patterns fall to new music and crisp detail and are manipulated into place with super sharp play control. Tetrad. It's funny, nowadays these pieces are officially known as tetrominos. Now a tetromino is a block of 4 units in these various shapes. I believe the trademark term is tetrimino. It's spelled a little differently, but the concept of a tetromino is actually not something that is owned by the Tetris company. It's a geographical concept. Oh, there's Howard Phillips. Our Nintendo resident Tetris master, Howard Phillips, has developed a few tips for survival in the Fastland for practice players. Yeah, nothing he played back in the day could have prepared players for the way this game is played competitively nowadays. Alright, so let's just breeze through here and try to find wherever the Revenge of the Gator coverage is, because I did read this maybe a year or more ago, but I don't know. So here's Super Mario Bros. Koopa King defeated by brave adventuring brothers. After stopping many Koopas and Goombas, defeating Bowser, and rescuing the princess, Mario and Luigi can finally rest easy. Look for the return of some old foes, plus some new ones in Super Mario Bros. 3, coming to NES next week. Now this here, having the top 10 game endings. Metroid. Femme Fatale finds cure for the evil Mother Brain's headaches. Holy smoke. Amos Aran, mighty galactic warrior, is revealed to be a woman when she reveals her cumbersome space armor after defeating the Mother Brain. Yeah, the idea that Samus was a woman was a surprise ending, actually, believe it or not. And having screenshots of these endings was for a lot of younger kids who maybe. Sorry, I dropped my gamepad. Well, I didn't drop it. I stepped on the cord by accident and knocked it off my desk. But yeah, we're about halfway through this magazine. Let's scroll through here and find Revenge of the Gator. Here's the Power Glove, the U-Force, all these novelty controllers. Now, Wheel of Fortune Jr., that's interesting. I guess this is an easier version for kids. Yeah, so Wheel of Fortune, these screenshots here remind me of... yeah, I have no... Did you see... Yeah, hey, Jacob. I have no clue what's in this box. I got a weird message saying not to open it, so I won't. Not to open it until I get further instructions. So I don't know how they got this to me without even my address on it. But my friend, he has a sonar thing, and he said it's nothing that looks suspicious or dangerous. So, but yeah, these screenshots remind me of the Wheel of Fortune my Mima had for DOS on her IBM PC back in the day that I'd play on when I went to her house. Yeah, look at Vanna. Oh, here we go. Check it out. So here's the game we'll be playing today. So Revenge of the Gator. Portable pinball, fast and fun action from HAL America. Bells and buzzers sound off in stereo while the silver ball weaves in and out of range of the metal-munching alligators in this fantastic version of video pinball. Whether or not the Gators get revenge is up to you and your flipper flipping fingers. Alliteration, whew. Pop the ball into the upper left corner of the lower screen, then move one screen up into big bonus territory. Yeah, this is very clearly the predecessor. I've never properly played this game before. I tested the sound a little bit, but that's it. Bonus screens add to the fun. With the right flipper finesse, you'll be able to steer the ball into many bonus screens and earn a stupendous score. Don't let the ball slip by. That Gator is getting mighty hungry. The action begins here with dual flippers and a lot of point-making possibilities. Alright, I think that is our Revenge of the Gator coverage. Now, from what very little I saw while testing the audio, I did find very clear sort of game design DNA between Revenge of the Gator and not only Kirby's Pinball Land in terms of how the bonus tables worked, but also Pokemon Pinball. This is a game I only got to rent once from Blockbuster way back when, and Pokemon Pinball, like the way the bonus tables work, the sort of flavor. Now, this was made in conjunction with Jupiter, but we do have 3 Game Boy pinball games, all of which are, 2 of which were developed entirely by HAL, and the third here was developed with a collaboration of Jupiter Corporation and HAL, with Jupiter Corporation then going on to the Game Boy Advance to make Pokemon Pinball Ruby and Sapphire, the second and sadly final game in the series, using... without HAL's input. So let's, so here's the device we'll be playing on. It's the Analog Pocket. No, I guess it's from XLO. Hold on, let me pull this up. Let me pull something up on YouTube real quick. Hold on. Yeah, I've been getting a lot of weird calls and stuff lately. And I really just wanted to get a free train DVD because I heard an offer on an online radio station I was listening to. But if you check that playlist, you can keep up with what's been happening with that. But we're gonna quit this. We're gonna quit this game. So bye-bye Alleyway, and switch over to Revenge of the Gator. So all we have to do is there we go. So we'll just drop that back in the dock. Hello. Hold on. I just heard, hold on, I have to switch. Yeah, it must be a really obscure company or token or whatever, but if you check out that playlist, you'll get a sense of what's been going on lately, because whenever this company calls me or anything goes on within them, like all the calls I have with them, they've happened while I'm live on stream, which is oddly specific. But I have... Hold on. I need to... There we go. Alright, we're back. I had to unplug my microphone, and to do that, I need to restart my broadcast software. So let's get into the game. There we go. Yeah, so you notice the title screen in English says Pinball Revenge of the Gator. This game was known as simply Revenge of the Gator in terms of its box art and its official title. In Europe, this was actually released with its full name being Pinball Revenge of the Gator on the box. So let's get started. So, unlike Kirby's Pinball Land, we actually see the launch, a launch lane. And Bill Preston saying they haven't heard this title music in 30 years or so. Well, I played this once briefly just to test the audio and to make sure the cartridge worked. This is my first time playing it. I've been a fan of Kirby's Pinball Land since 1995. So, a few years ago when I learned, before I even started streaming, when I learned that there was a sort of predecessor to this game by the same company, very clearly sharing that same DNA, quite possibly, I mean, the games in this era didn't quite have engines the way we think of them nowadays. You know, like, oh, Unreal Engine 4 or CryEngine or anything like that. But this game, they did have what I believe are, I'm not a program engineer or anything, excuse me, but I believe these are called kernels, are the sort of the equivalent of engines. Now, Bill is asking me, am I a fan of arcade pinball machines? I am, but I'm not very good at them, and I don't encounter them very often. One of my favorite pinball, well, that didn't last long, because I'm just getting started. One of my favorite pinball games of all time was the Super Mario Bros. Pinball machine that they had at Chuck E. Cheese. And I would go to Chuck E. Cheese just to play the Super Mario Bros. Pinball machine back in the 90s. Now, what's interesting is that it was about the time at which I had sort of aged out of Chuck E. Cheese. I was kind of pushing it even being there. But I went there because the only place I knew that had the Super Mario Bros. Pinball machine. And what really blew me away, what shooed me away from, hey, eggplant on the slot machine there. But one of the things that really did push me through the door, out of the door of Chuck E. Cheese, is that one day I went there and Super Mario Bros. Pinball machine was gone. Then, maybe 4 or 5 years later, there was another arcade that had opened up since then. It was like a kid's arcade type thing, I guess skewing a little bit older than Chuck E. Cheese. I would have never went there except I had a friend who was having his had his birthday there. And when I went there, I saw what was very clearly the exact same Super Mario Bros. Pinball game. And I was like, oh my gosh, after all these years, now I'm much younger then, it was like maybe no more than 5 years later, but to see the pinball machine again and know it's the same, not just the same type of machine, but the same specific individual machine, like I guess they sold it to some supplier who provided it to these new machines. Yeah, like seeing the art, I mean the art is so memorable because the artwork and the attract modes, those are things that are designed to bring you over to the table in the first place. There are things that are designed to make an impression even if you don't actually play the game. But yeah, Super Mario Bros., I guess because it was for kids, was a relatively tame pinball machine in terms of, I guess, the speed of the ball, in terms of how the table was weighted. The ball moved fairly slowly. It wasn't one of those steeper machines that are you have to be super skilled and focused. It had a shallow tilt to it, I guess. I don't know, I'm not too up on my proper pinball table terminology. But, Bill, you know what one of my favorite video games that I play on stream is Nintendo's Versus Pinball, also by Hal, you know, that I play on the Switch with the Arcade Archives version that Hamster made. So yeah, this game is I'm already having a blast with this, learning the different rules for the different targets, the different modes, and the like. So to continue this story about the Super Mario Brothers machine that was formerly at Chuck E. Cheese, I found it maybe a few years later, and I was a teen by then. You know, I was like a little kid when I was at Chuck E. Cheese. I was in my teens. I wasn't a child anymore. And to see the same machine, but it was in bad shape. I was really sad. I was happy to see it again, but I'm like, man, it's all duct taped together. It's not in good condition. What happened? 119910. Yeah, I'm keeping my scores down. Yeah, I'm keeping my scores down. And I'm going to oh, there we go. Yeah, and I'm gonna make a bunch of dorky graphs and data tables out of them. Yeah, kids happen to them. To the Super Mario Brothers pinball table. So... but then, the funny... And I never went to that place again. I only went to this arcade because my friend at the time... I had his birthday party there, and we were on, like, the very edge of being within age range of it being cool or normal to have a birthday party at an establishment like this, though it was skewed a little older, this place, than the Chuck E. Cheese was. But then, later on in the YouTube era, I went looking for videos of this pinball machine, and I found a pinball table. And I'm like, oh, here's someone who has a copy of it. And it's like, oh, Super Mario Brothers pinball machine, restoration job, you know, I haven't started yet. So I look at it, and the guy's saying, oh, yeah, I had this, and this guy was in Texas, and he's like, oh, yeah, this was at an arcade called, and he says the name of the specific arcade that I'm like, this is, and he's like, oh, that's from this certain arcade that in Long Island, New York, and they were getting rid of it. So I had it shipped over to Texas so I could pick it up. I was like, oh my gosh, that's the same table that I played when I was a kid that was at Chuck E. Cheese. So I'm glad to know that the specific table that I played as a kid did end up in the hands of a collector who then lovingly restored it, and I got to see it in action on the same machine on YouTube again. It's absolutely incredible. Yeah, so that was really neat to see, knowing that that specific table has been restored. Now hey, so Bill Preston, I don't know if you got to hear me go on this rant before. Talking about genuine, without exaggeration, dream pinball games. Dream arcade cabinets I'd love to play. I have had actual dreams about finding in the wild, yeah, quantum entanglement with a pinball table of all things. I have had actual dreams of finding at a real arcade a fully working Baby Pac-Man machine. Now, if you're not familiar with Baby Pac-Man, it is a unique pinball game. Baby Pac-Man is a fusion between a physical pinball table and a video arcade game. Now, look at this. Oh, I lost the ball right away. But you see what that was? That was like a breakout game where you're breaking bricks using a pinball. And that's actually how some earlier video simulations of home video game simulations of pinball kind of worked, like a fusion between pinball and breakout. But yeah, Baby Pac-Man is an infamously difficult to own, an infamously difficult to play. Well, it's difficult to own just because you have to be adept with the physical aspects of the pinball table and the computer aspects of the video game arcade part, and you have to know there are unique mechanisms to allow the video game portion of the table and the pinball portion of the table to interact with one another. And Baby Pac-Man would have been one of those ideal games to have on either the original Nintendo DS or on the Wii U, because the pinball the video part was on the upper screen, the upper part of the machine, and the pinball part was on the lower part of the machine. So that would have been a perfect way to port the game. Now, there are ways to simulate this in MAME, but the fact that there are physical aspects to this game as well as... Yeah, there are physical aspects as well as computer aspects, make it a very difficult machine to take care of as a collector and as a restorationist. Now, Bill Preston's saying they'd love to own some arcade cabinets, maybe a pinball machine one day. It would be cool. It's something that it's never going to fit into my lifestyle. The manner on which, even if I made it big, right? Even if I, you know, hit the big time, have tons of money to spend, I don't see myself wanting the space. I don't want the space to have even a single pinball table. I would want... Yeah, that's not the lifestyle I want to live. I'd love to live... Like, the apartment I live is so tiny that when I have to refill my water bottle, my bathroom is, like, right beyond what you can see on camera. It is, like, right next to me, which is great. Now, I wish I did have a proper kitchen where I'm living, in terms of, you know, my little living space I've got, but I've got a bathroom with enough space for an electric kettle, so I can make ramen and stuff like that, and that's good enough for now. I'd like to move into a new apartment sometime soon, but there are other things I'd rather take care of first. I like where I live right now, and the rent's affordable. So, because I had to restart the stream due to... Because I had to restart the stream due to losing the connection, the sort of timer on the... I guess the ad break, the mandatory ads, has reset. Because normally they would not be going for at least another 15 or 20 minutes, because I deliberately trigger an ad break before I go on camera, but while I'm still counting down to the start of the show. So I'm going to go to my webcam. No, not my webcam. I'm going to go to my break screen. I'm going to drop a credit for the artists, and I will be back in 4 minutes, and we will continue on with Revenge of the Gator. And during that 4-minute break, I will run an ad break, because I probably make about $10 a year off these ads. I wouldn't run them at all if I could choose to, but I have to run them at some point, or else it'll run it for me at an inopportune time when people who are not subscribed to me will have to miss out on content. So I'll be back in a few minutes. I will trigger the ad break. So I'll be back in a minute. Alright, so let's get back to where we were, which was, we were playing Revenge of the Gator. And this is my second proper match, or attempt at it. Now, I am actually recorded my score the first time around. This game is supposed to save your score, but I have no clue what the status of this game in terms of, this cartridge in terms of the battery save. If I was thinking a little harder, I probably would have replaced the battery before we started today. Because I do have some extra batteries somewhere. And now, oh my goodness, see, look, I'll have to look back on the VOD and check the score there, because I accidentally mashed through it. Because I'm so used to mashing through the score. But, yeah, I want to see how my, my score gradually improves over time. Yeah, so for those who are unfamiliar with this particular game, this is a launch-era Game Boy game by HAL, who basically used their know-how from Nintendo's Versus Pinball. Hey! So this, hopefully we won't lose our ball first thing like last time. But we've got... Now, there doesn't seem to be any sort of tilt function in this game, which is something you'd see in Kirby's Pinball Land. But they definitely use their know-how from the last, their last pinball game being Nintendo's Versus Pinball, in order to, shucks, you almost got the alligator to fall down into the lower screen. And, hold on a second. I'll be right back. Gotta do something real quick. Yeah, I had a pile of laundry on my bed, and it was right on the edge and it was starting to fall over, so I just had to go prop it back up there so it didn't fall and get lint all over it. So we're back. Now let's check this out, what Clack was saying. I have a lot of dedication with these Game Boy games. They would need to see them in color to at least have interest in trying them. Yeah, that's understandable. Yeah, I'm really just, I guess we got... Yo, that's the best thing you could hope to happen. No! We almost, I don't think it counted because the alligator didn't actually make it through the hole. Yeah, I know some of my viewers were saying, like, when I tried Kirby's Tilt and Tumble, that game was graphically incredibly, well, the gameplay-wise, it wasn't very impressive. The motion controls did not do much for me. However, because it was in full color, then going back to Kirby's Dream Land 2 and it's in black and white, it was just sort of so jarring. It's like, the last game wasn't that fun, but at least it looked that very pretty. More visually stimulating. But yeah, but I could imagine how a lot of these monochrome Game Boy games, and the thing is, I can make this look, I'm actually simulating with using the analog pocket with which I play these games, I'm actually simulating the green screen, the sort of unique properties of the screen that the original Game Boy had. Which for me is nostalgic, but for others is just going to be really annoying. Because the screen on the original Game Boy, it was a black and white system, but the screen had this green sort of tint to it. That was a distinct part of how those games looked when you played on that system. And this is how a lot of people, by the time Pokemon came out, had already had Game Boy Pocket. Game Boy Color wasn't quite out yet. But I know for me, this was a game that when I got Game Boy, I got Pokemon, I played it on my original model Game Boy because I didn't have Game Boy Pocket until I was in college. And Game Boy Color wasn't quite out yet. So this was an amazing, going from the Game Gear, which was in full color and had a backlit screen, I found, for me, that not, because I was interested, like, am I even going to like playing games on a system that's only in black and white? Hey, Zip Boy, and they're saying that this capture's looking crispy nice. Well, thank you. Hey, it's all, I'm using the analog pocket, which is, this, if you do not care about playing on original cartridges, this is 1001% overkill. Just, if you don't care about using the original cartridges, you do not need an analog system. I happen to have a large library of original cartridges, and I'm interested in playing those copies in real time. If you do not care about those two things, get anything other than analog. There are so many excellent solutions that will get you a great looking picture like this without having to spend that kind of money. And I was fortunate in that I was able to get the asking price. I didn't pay an opportunistic reseller for these systems. I know a lot of I guess there's certain, my first analog system was the Analog Mega SG, which plays, I got it mainly because it was the first way that could play Game Gear games off using an adapter from the original cartridges, and I was very interested in doing that. So I could play my childhood copy of Sonic the Hedgehog live on stream, and I was able to do my first stream with my own childhood copy of the first modern, proper video game I ever played, which is something I cared about. But there are other ways to get your hands on these games, especially since so many of them have no legitimate way to play them that gives the current publisher or rights holder the money anyway. So in that case, I'm like, hey, play the game by whatever means gives you the experience that you're looking for. Now, because playing it with the screen settings like this, because I can play it in a mode more resembling the Game Boy Pocket, where we see the true colors, the true 4 shades of black, and then the white backdrop that the system originally 87550. 87550. 87550. Okay, I'm taking down on my scores to make a spreadsheet and do graphs and averages and dorky crap like that later on. All right, so this is my third game we're about to get into here. So let's say in about I don't have my timer within arm's reach. Actually, I'll just use my the timer I used for my layout. So in about 20 minutes, maybe we'll move on to some more magazines. Because we looked at Nintendo Power and some of their coverage of this game. We'll look at a couple of other magazines and then call it a stream. Because this is a game that I'll be coming back to a lot. This is going to be a warm-up game, a frequently appearing warm-up game, in the same manner that Versus Pinball is a frequent warm-up game when we play Switch games. Because I can just pop this cartridge in whenever I'm playing for future Game Boy or Game Boy Color, Game Boy Advance, even Game Gear games, because I could play Game Gear games on the same device I'm using here. So this is going to probably be a good warm-up stream for my first 10-15 minutes of stream, my sort of just chatting section. Because video pinball games I find are a good way to sort of, it's a virtual thumb twiddler kind of thing, where I could talk with chat, interact with chat at a fast pace, but also play decently and put on a good show with the game itself. I mean, I'm in the top 100 for Nintendo's Versus Pinball on the online leaderboards with the Versus on the Arcade Archives version on Switch. And a lot of every single one of those games was done on stream while interacting with chat. But what I was getting at was that when I decided I would use analog devices to play some of my cartridge games, I did not make that decision at a time when there was this sort of mystique around analog. It was just a solution to play the cartridges and run it directly into HDMI. Oh my gosh. To do some tests outside of my regular shows, where I just put up a test pattern and test what's going on, why I'm losing my connection so frequently lately. Because it'll go from being excellent to just crashing. For a long time I wasn't having, back in like September I was having this problem. I actually got them to rewire the internet facilities in my apartment building just to, Oh yeah, and I love having the box arts for games visible on screen. So yeah, you can see the Revenge of the Gator box art there. Why don't I didn't plan on this. I plan on going longer, but because I'm having these disconnection problems, what I'm gonna do is we'll play this game out and then go on to the magazines, because the magazines frequently I have so much to say about them that they end up taking up like a long time anyway. And I didn't plan for this stream to go on significantly more than 2 hours, because I started at 5, it's already a little past 6. in my time zone. So I'll finish this match up and then get to reading about not only this game, but also in period magazines, but also some of the contemporary games that this game was being covered alongside to get a sense of the this moment of gaming history. Now, this time I want to focus. I want to make sure that I could actually see. Oh no, that was out of my control. That was just bad luck, right? Because I became close to actually seeing what happens when we win that minigame. I guess when the Gator falls through the drain at the bottom, that'll be considered the one. Oh, the box. Oh yeah, yeah, we're gonna have to see if I'm having problems because of this. In fact, why don't I get this away? There you go. I tossed it onto my bed. And get that away from the computer. See if I have a better connection. Because there's no signal coming from it. There's nothing that should be emitting any signals. I have no idea. Now, okay. Come on! No, you didn't get to see what the slot results were. Oh, went straight down the gutter, where the alligator eats our ball, which was later adapted. That whole concept of below the table being something that eats your ball was sort of reinvented for Kirby's Pinball Land. Yeah, my speed should be fine. I don't know why I just keep spontaneously disconnecting like that. Oh. Now, I love how when the ball bounces, the ball, like, bumps their snout in when it hits those targets on the left. I'd love to know what made them decide, you know what? We should make a pinball game themed around alligators specifically. You know, I'd love to know. I wonder if this game was particularly popular in Florida. Hey, you know what? This was before. I think this game is older than Coots and Critter. But this would be, if they made a Coots and Critter pinball game, this would be a fantastic game that could have been adapted into a Coots and Critter game. If you're wondering, Coots and Critter is a 1990s one-off Christmas special with that's themed around a bunch of Florida animals in the Everglades. But the animation style and the writing, something about it, the writing has a bit of that Ren and Stimpy edge. Well, it has that spice. It has the spice of Ren and Stimpy, but not the edge, I guess you could say. Where they didn't go for any gross out stuff or anything that would really get parents upset potentially. But it wasn't like a soft, super cuddly thing. It was, the animals had a little sass to them. The characters had a 140370. 140370. 140370. Now, unlike Nintendo's Versus Pinball, actually, H. Okay, we'll just put H. Alright, so we'll consider ourselves finished with Revenge of the Gator for now. And I'm gonna go. I have to just get up. I'm gonna go around my back of my my setup and switch my capture card with my second monitor. Oh, the mystery box. Oh, I threw the mystery box on the other side of the computer. I was gonna open it, but then I got a voicemail from that advanced controller person saying not to open the box yet, so I'm just not gonna open it yet. Oh yeah, it had the comment about dirty books. I forgot about that. Alright. Unplug this. Plug in that. And I think it says a lot about maybe my way of thinking that I forgot about that slightly dirty joke, the dirty book joke. Alright, so we looked at coverage of this game in Nintendo Power. And by the way, everyone, fortunately I don't need my headphones for the rest of the stream because we're not playing the game anymore, but when I swapped my second monitor for my capture card, when I switched to the HDMI cables, my microphone went silly again. So, I mean, my headphones, which are plugged into my microphone, went silly again. But as long as the music sounds good for all of you, yeah, so, yeah, we have a bunch of, a bunch of, coming up, new for Game Boy, Bugs Bunny. Bugs is added again from Kemco Saika. There'll be stairs, doorways, rewarding hearts, and pursuing villains. It's still in the works, but we think it will have some similarities to the NES game. This is what became Bugs Bunny's Crazy Castle, which I know a lot of people only know of because of the Angry Video Game Nerd episode, which is good and emphasizes the more frustrating aspects of the game, but Bugs Bunny's Crazy Castle, it's a good little arcade platformer. It's a little, single screen platformer game. Now, Saga, this is the first role-playing game for Game Boy from Square. It is sure to please fans of games like Dragon Warrior. Discover lost treasure, build experience, and find weapons, and go after evil forces. Here, a town in the distance holds many mysteries. They know that's not a town, that's the tower. That's the tower. Rest at an inn for energy. Now, here's Boxel, that's Sakoban. Oh, that's another HAL game. HAL America's come with a real puzzler. Move crates into their appropriate locations by pushing them around assorted obstacles. And here's Hyper Load Runner. Yeah, Saga got released in North America as Final Fantasy Legend, and it's funny that they renamed this game from Saga to Final Fantasy Legend for the name recognition of Final Fantasy. Meanwhile, Nintendo Power themselves don't even name drop Final Fantasy. They compared to Dragon Warrior, which was from their Square's competitor Enix, before they became Square Enix and merged into one in the first decade of the 21st century. I played Final Fantasy Legend 1 up to about 3/4 of the way through back in the 90s, and I saved in a room with a boss that I was too weak to fight, and you cannot exit the room until you beat the boss, so I effectively soft-locked myself, and I never went back to it. I've had Final Fantasy Legend for Switch for years, before I even started streaming through the collection of Saga or whatever it was called on the Switch, and I've just never played it, and it's been so long that now I have the means to play the original cartridge. But yeah, Square Enix had a Game Boy games on Switch many, many years before Nintendo dared to attempt the same thing. But we will be looking at EGM, Electronic Gaming Monthly, number 6. Yeah, this was definitely before my time reading video game magazines. By the way, if my stream cuts down, I will be back within a few minutes, and if it... Oh, and Clagboy saying they colorized the Saga games for the WonderSwan handheld. I wish that had been released here. Yeah, unfortunately, I could pretty much say that as cool as the WonderSwan and WonderSwan Color were, it was probably a wise business decision not to attempt to market those in the United States, considering a lot of their bigger heavy hitters were anime tie-in games for a lot of animes that were not even localized for the Western audience. We've got Batman the video game, Galaga 90, China Warrior, Avenger of Shinobi, Zoom, Golden Axe, Rolling Thunder, and Forgotten Worlds. Yeah, so Final Fantasy Legend 1, also known as Saga, in its original release, that's a game I will play, and when I play it, it's the first time since the 90s I'll play it, which is going to be amazing. But, Fester's Quest, which I heard is good, but, now check this out, We've seen great leaps and bounds in video game technology unfold before us within just a few years. When you think back, that was only 10 years ago. The Atari 2600 was state-of-the-art. You really begin to appreciate just how far this hobby has come. The Turbo and Genesis are hot today. But what will tomorrow hold? Holographic games? Even the Nintendo, which is still the ability to play great games, is trying to look a little rough around the edges when compared to the two aforementioned 16-bit hitters. Will they be able to place Nintendo? Probably not. Notice how they're saying the Nintendo. You're not even talking about the, they mentioned Super Famicom here. Oh, and here's the Three Stooges, which is kind of a mini. Oh, Collectible, you actually had Fester's Quest. I never played it. I've heard about it though. I heard it was good. You know, just frustrating in certain parts. But the Three Stooges by Activision. Now this, yeah, back when Activision had a soul. Yeah, this is a kind of. I never played this, but I know of it being a mini game collection of all things. Which, given the sort of mini games based on specific Three Stooges episodes. So we have questions about Sega. Yeah, if anyone wants to read through these at their own pace, go to retromags.org. We'll have these up there. I unfortunately I do have to save my voice because I could talk so much about these magazines. And now this is at an era when I was, I was still little. I did not even, I was not playing video games at this point. By 1990, I was aware of video games, was aware that there was a Nintendo Entertainment System. Didn't really care much until the Super Nintendo. Well, no, didn't really care much until I saw... Now, Dragon Spirit, we played the NES version, the arcade version of this game. No, we played the NES version of this on the some Namco Museum collection. Yeah. A Dragon Transformation vertical shooter where with actual branching path stuff that was kind of unexpected, where if you beat the intro level, you get a different path than if you lose in the intro level. Now, Galaga 90, I've only played the original Galaga, but here we have this cool background with this toridical, this Tors in geometry is a donut type shape, a three-dimensional figure. This toridical sort of donut shaped space colony. Rambo 3, River City Ransom. I heard a lot about it, never played it myself. Now here we go. Here's the game we were playing. Now, Motorcycle Maniacs, but let's check this out. Revenge of the Gator, released now with levels of play, difficulty easy. HAL's Revenge of the Gator pinball combines alligators and pinball on the Game Boy screen, much the same way Turbo mixed aliens and silver balls in Alien Crush. The alligator pinball game features a poor man's scrolling playfield that is 4 screens high. A poor man scrolling. That's weird terminology. Oh, and Kalakaboy saying that that Fester's Quest was their first exposure to the Addams Family. You know, I remember watching Addams Family and the Munsters on. On rerun. Oh my gosh, the screen disconnected. Or okay, this has been happening to people a lot because I know. Oh my gosh, it says it's unstable. It's been happening to a lot of people lately. You're saying, because those few streams. Yeah, I don't think the advanced controller is causing this because whatever the advanced controller's motivations are, my stream needs to be live in order for people. Oh, there have been solar storms lately. Is that what you're talking about, Mecha Kong, or is Azure S hip to something else? Yeah, but the thing is, they're a crypto mining company, I think, so it would stand to reason that they would want my connection to remain stable so that I could mine whatever stupid token they're trying to get me to mine. Okay, because I know I used to have problems that were about my apartment building that I actually got the company to come and rewire. Alright, they've almost every person in the mid or east with these issues. I think the weather is affecting the infrastructure. I'm not having actually extreme weather in my region. Is everyone able to hear me? Because Azure says they can't hear me. Everything I see indicates that my sound is working fine. Everything I see and hear indicates that my sound is working fine. I'll wait till we have some confirmation before I continue on. Okay, Mechacon can hear me fine, Azure, so make sure to check your volume on whatever device you're using. But yeah, so we're talking about the Addams Family. I remember watching the Munsters and Addams Family on reruns back in the day. and I felt this as a kid, and I feel this now. I feel like The Munsters was the better television show. But I'd rather hang out with the Addams Family. That's how I feel. I feel like Addams Family, they're better characters, they're cooler characters, I'd rather hang out with them. The Munsters, I feel like was just a better show. Interesting, you know, that's my creepy family, my creepy televised family sitcom, my spoopy themed, like, family sitcoms of the 50s, hot take. So Hal's Revenge of the Gator. By performing certain feats such as knocking down drop targets, hitting specific ball blocks, you can enter 3 different bonus teams where more Gators are waiting. A true player feature expands the play even more for direct competition. Oh, so here are the reviews. A 6 out of 10. Revenge of the Gator is a very good pinball game for the Game Boy with multiple levels and 3 bonus rounds, but it does get repetitive after several plays. Working your way up to the play field can become slow and tedious, but for a portable pinball game, this one isn't too bad. What other options were there in 1989? I'd love to know. If there are other pinball games released on Game Boy in 1989, I want to hear about them. But another 6. One wouldn't think that pinball could come off looking decent on the small Game Boy screen, but Gator does. With nicely animated action, plenty of targets, and bonus screens, you get a game that offers good, light, and enjoyable gameplay to help you pass the time, pure entertainment. 7. A good pinball game for Game Boy. Revenge of the Gator is filled with lots of hidden bonus rounds. The Gators and other characters are animated and will provide an interesting diversion from the normal breed of drop targets. Gators is pinball on the go. Azres is saying they found out that their MacBook Air mutes if they touch the letter M. I don't have a modern Mac, so I can't even say. So we have some games. Thundercade. I've never heard of this game. Amagon. Oh, these are both by Sammy. This is the company that later sort of merged with Sega to form Sega Sammy Holdings, but they did not actually they didn't actually rebrand. Like when Square and Enix merged, they rebranded into Square Enix. When Sega and Sammy merged, they did keep their branding separate publicly. So here's gaming gossip. So this is a bunch gaming gossip, or it's just rumors about what games are going to come out. A lot of times they did flagrantly make up rumors. Other times, future play. So they're covering the then next gen systems, the TurboGrafx, the Nintendo Super Famicom. Oh, let's look at these. These are okay. After repeated delays, Nintendo finally released the final design. Come on, editors, what are you doing? After repeated delays, Nintendo finally released the final design. How about after repeated delays, Nintendo at last released the final design? You've used the word final in 2 forms in 1 sentence. Very sloppy copywriting there. But 35 years too late for that, to fix that. But finally released the final design for Nintendo's shot at the 16-bit sweepstakes at a press conference in late July. While some surface changes have been made to the console, the unit's powerful processor and dazzling graphics capabilities remained intact and were shown off to a great degree, and a new flight simulator called Dragonfly. I think this what eventually became Pilot Wings. The flagship of the system, Super Mario World, however, was not as graphically impressive, but did exhibit some unique twists on the original Super Mario theme. Nintendo has once again pushed back the release of their Super System to the summer of 1990. While their early announcement of their system last year may have generated new excitement in the Nintendo label, it also promoted competitors like Sega to push the scheduled release of their 16-bitter and 16-bitter, and NEC to quickly reveal and release the Super graphics. Although the Super Fammy is basically finished, Nintendo believes that any production of the unit prior to next summer would only cut into the sales of their existing system and software. How wise the strategy is in the long run remains to be seen. It worked out for them eventually, but even though the unit is yet to hit shelves, Nintendo has already set their out to steal their legion loyal of third-party developers. Nintendo has officially stated that they do not plan... Oh my gosh. Nintendo has officially stated that they do not plan to bring the Super Famicom out in the US, but with mounting pressure from NEC and Sega, that threat carries little weight. Yeah, there was a while where Nintendo was specifically categorically saying the Super Famicom is a Japanese product for the Japanese market. There is no need for a 16-bit console in North America, and we're not bringing the Super Famicom to the North America. That was their official party line for a long time. Now look here, 16-bit Super Mario World. We actually now, thanks to the 2020 Giga Leak, we now have lots of assets and from this era of Super Mario World's development. It's so wild thinking in the 1980s, in 1989, seeing screenshots of Super Mario World when in North America, we did not even get Super Mario Bros. 3 until 1990. And here we already have screenshots of the sequel to Super Mario Bros. 3. But yeah, it is so crazy that Nintendo was seriously trying to convince people, oh, we are not bringing a 16-bit console. The Super Nintendo, it's for Japan only. We are not bringing it out outside of Japan. It's a Japanese product for a Japanese market. The West has no need for a 16-bit system. But look at this, a prototype Super Famicom, a red power switch, and red buttons on the controller. It ends up having red, green, yellow, and blue buttons in Japan and Europe. Now, notice this Super Famicom is basically how it looked aside from the red power switch in Japan and Europe. Now, here's the wacky thing. The designer in Nintendo of America specifically redesigned the Super Famicom to the Super Nintendo. Well, I've got it right here. So here's the Super NES Mini, because my actual Super Nintendo is several states away where I used to live, where I still have a storage unit. But yeah, so Nintendo they redesigned the Super Famicom here with it had gray switches, colored buttons, and its final release is the Super Famicom in Japan, Super Nintendo in Europe. They redesigned it to this with its purple switches and the purple buttons on the controller. No, but they redesigned it to this. First off, this little notch here. You see this little notch? That was to discourage people from putting drinks and cups on top of the system, because one of the main problems NOA had, the NES, when they redesigned it for North America, the cartridge went in the front to resemble a VCR, to look less like a traditional game system. And because of that, they had lots of problems with people putting drinks on top of their console, the drinks spilling. Nintendo has to then repair them. So hey, make the system have an uneven top so people can't put their drinks on it. But they redesigned it to look less toy-like. Nintendo of America wants to redesign this that you see here to look less toy-like. So how do you make it look less toy-like? Giving it purple switches and buttons. What kind of logic is that? I have no idea. But the look was iconic. My cousin had Super Nintendo. My cousin who lived upstairs, because we had a split-level home back in Rockaway in Queens. And I was not interested in video games at the time, but when I saw that commercial for Sonic the Hedgehog, I was interested. That got my attention. So let me put this... my Super Nintendo Mini has been sitting up on top of the VCR that is part of my actual computer set, because I have a VCR, HDMI out VCR as part of my setup for preserving VHS tapes. Which I don't talk... Yeah, right in on Hulk Hogan's crotch. Yeah, we'll scroll past that. Yes, so got some Master System coverage, TurboGrafx, Game Boy. And then let's look at Game Boy since we were covering, yeah. The Nintendo Game Boy has been released for several months now, generating only a moderate amount of excitement, with its first 4 titles, really only one, Super Mario Land. Tetris was a huge deal on Game Boy. What are you talking about? Tetris was a massive deal on Game Boy. And hey, I am the only person who likes and defends, where's the cartridge? Who likes and defends Alleyway as much as I do. When I see people streaming Alleyway, and I go in like, hey, you're playing Alleyway, awesome. Like, yeah, they think I'm kidding. I'm like, no, I like this game. I genuinely like this game. And Galactic Boy saying the Super Nintendo will always be their favorite console of all time. Yeah, the Super Nintendo's a pretty... I mean, you could argue that in terms of game variety and selection, Nintendo was not able to match what they enjoyed with Super Nintendo until the Nintendo Switch. And here, look at this. Look at what we've got here. Yeah, the Atari 7800 and 2600 were still on the market at this point. And Atari had set on the 7800 for several years before not thinking it would actually sell. And then, whoops, the NES came out and they Nintendo ate Atari's lunch. And Atari rushed. Now here's look at this. Yeah, Atari got their lunch eaten by Nintendo, released the NES. They brought the NES literally out of, I mean, the 7800 out of storage to ship the units and start marketing and actually releasing the system. But here we've got this controller from Hudson Soft with rapid fire. But you can see the controller here is very clearly based on the Japanese Super Famicom, or the Japanese Famicom, not Super Famicom, but regular Famicom controller, and not the Super Famicom. So here we've got Othello, which I believe actually was created by a Japanese board game designer. I believe Othello, this particular take on Reversity, actually started in Japan specifically. So we've got New Hope from Europe, you got Psycho Fox. That was for Master System, I think. And here we've got the modem for the Genesis. They ended up being online gaming on the Genesis, but I don't think this particular modem they're showing here actually released. You got home versions of Golden Axe, Ghouls and Ghosts, the sequel of Ghosts and Goblins, which released on Genesis, Ghouls and Ghosts, and then they released an enhanced version, Super Ghouls and Ghosts, for the Super Nintendo, which ended up really being remembered as the definitive version of that particular game. So Kung Fu Heroes, NES game, I never played it myself. Realistic Kung Fu action, I doubt it, but Othello, isn't that based on Shakespeare? Hey, you want to hear? You know why they called this? Yeah, it is based on Shakespeare's play Othello. Because the reason that they decided to call this board game Othello is because black and white are in opposition in the context of Shakespeare's Othello. So I won't go any deeper than that. But yeah, that's why they decided to call this game Othello. Unless I'm reading into it too deeply, but I remember specifically reading that that's why they decided to call this game that. Shoutouts to Paul Robeson. I think that's the first Paul Robeson reference I've made on my Twitch stream, and possibly the first Paul Robeson reference on Twitch in general. Mystic Defender, looks like sort of a fantasy platformer. Yeah, oh, you got Bomberman for NES. I'm shaking. Here's the problem. One problem I have, when I'm doing my magazine streams, I have my hands on the desk, and when I fidget and shake, normally it's not a problem, but when I do it with my hands on the keyboard, it shakes the webcam, and that's actually why, for my writing streams, because I'm actually interacting with the keyboard a lot and shaking, that's why I created Griffin H and the PNG tuber avatar. Use codes for Galaga 90, codes for... Yeah, oh, so here's that controller. Oh, wow, use the controller even closer up. So yeah, this controller is very specifically styled after the Famicom's controller. And it's like, hey, there's no need to, and now the cool thing about, yeah, this uses the feature where, that the Famicom had. I didn't realize this capability was built back in, yeah, Paul Robeson, yeah, you gotta be quite the character to sing the hymn of the Soviet Union in English in the 60s. I'll just leave it at that. Yeah, visited the Soviet Union, and somehow they actually let him back in the country. Good thing they did. But, yeah, so the Famicom had a speaker and a headphone jack in one of the controllers. And, I mean, considering, that Charlie Chaplin arguably got kicked out of the United States for filming The Great Dictator. Yeah, I think Paul Robeson was definitely kind of lucky to make it back into the US after the stunt he pulled over in Russia. I wondered how Griffin H. would handle these questionable phone calls. Kalaka Boy, if you look on that playlist, I think Griffin H. did get one of these creepy phone calls. I think he actually did, if you were not aware of that. With glasses off, I will... Oh my gosh. It's incredible. I could go all day long. I could go weeks without putting these glasses on once, and I won't notice a thing. But when I have these glasses on for just a few minutes, just a little while, I take them off, I'm like, wow, my vision is butt. I'm blessed to have any vision at all, but it's really once I put on these glasses for a little while is when I notice. But glasses off, I will say. Griffin H. did get a call from the advanced controller. In fact, the advanced controller called Griffin H. before he actually called regular H. That being me. If you check on that playlist, you'll find the call that the advanced controller made to Griffin H. Oh my gosh. Game Boy Shanghai special codes. During the code entry screen, you can input passwords which will display the staff, turn the tiles upside down, and more. Producer, Satoru Iwata. Rest in power. Game Boy Tetris. If you're a very talented Tetris player, you can make very special things happen, both the A and B games. In game type A, if you score 100,000 points, you are treated to a small rocket launching off. Yeah, the small rocket is a Soyuz rocket. And my mom was the first person I ever saw get that many points. And then if you rack up 200... And then in game B, if you complete level 9, you get Russian dancers filling the screen. If you complete at level 9 with the high at 5, you get to see the space shuttle take off. Now, here's the funny thing. That is not a space shuttle. It is a Soyuz orbiter attached to an Energia rocket. Because you can see that is not the orange external fuel tank. Well, you couldn't see the orange, but that is not the external fuel tank and solid rocket boosters of a shuttle. That is an Energia rocket that the Soyuz orbiter is attached to, which is the Soviets' equivalent to the United States space shuttle. And it only flew once on a remote-controlled test flight. And arguably the Soyuz was superior to the American space shuttle. I mean, not the Soyuz, the Buran. I keep saying Soyuz, I mean Buran. The Buran Soviet space shuttle or shuttle-type orbiter is actually arguably superior to the American shuttle in the fact that it can be flown entirely by computers in an unoccupied computer-only flight, and the fact that the Soyuz, the Buran, was able to actually do powered flight in Earth's atmosphere. Because when the shuttle returned from space, it was a glider. It had the engines only could allow it to fly into space and maneuver it in space. When it landed, it was an unpowered glider. And when it landed as an airplane, but it was actually not an airplane, it was an unpowered glider. The Buran, so if the space shuttle missed the runway during its re-entry, it was guaranteed to crash, probably with the loss of all on board. Whereas with the Buran, it was able to actually fly under its own power. And I don't think it ever actually happened, but it was capable of doing so. So we've got Super Dodgeball now on sale. Super Mario Land. We played Super Mario Land a few times. We didn't need to use the continue option. every time I've ever attempted Super Mario Land on stream, I was able to beat it. Now, back in 95, when I got the game, I could never beat it in a single run, but the continuing Super Mario Land is identical to the one in Super Mario Bros. Simply hold down the A button when pressing start. Select any level of playing Super Mario Land. You must first beat the game and rescue the princess twice! You have to play through the entire game? That's ridiculous. Imagine playing through the game once is an hour. Playing through it a second time, that's another hour if you're not slowed down by all the extra difficulty of the more extreme enemy placement. So imagine sitting around for 2 hours playing Super Mario Land, and yeah, I played through the entire game twice, and there are no warp zones in Super Mario Land, so you have to play through the entire game every single time. Imagine playing through Super Mario Land twice in a row and being, yay, now I can select any level I want. You can clearly access any level you want just by playing through the game twice. Game Boy Tetris mess up screen. When playing Type B on level 9, there's a way to end the game with one line left and mess with the screen. Wait until you... I never heard of this before. Wait until you only have one line left to fill at the very last moment when you drop a block at the last line to win the game. Press start and bring up the pause screen. The ending will appear over it and look very weird. That's cool. We'll have to try that sometime. I wouldn't mind a reason to come back and... Now, these joysticks were very directly based on the European... these joysticks here, these were ubiquitous in Europe and the United Kingdom. These traditional joysticks were used for your computer games because in Europe and in the UK, the home gaming scene was more based around 8-bit personal computers as opposed to home game consoles. So they'd be these controllers that would have a bunch of buttons on them. They all did the same thing. It was the traditional controller. It would have a joystick with one button and no secondary button. If you needed multiple buttons, it would be a game controlled with the keyboard. So, Super Mario Land hidden platforms. That's interesting. Let's check this out. There's several areas in Super Mario Land filled with items that are impossible to reach. Now you can get them. On level 2-2, for example, it appears the lower level is unattainable, but you actually jump on the invisible platform run. I never knew that. According to my broadcast software, according to everything I have access to, I am still live and connected to Twitch. So you might have to refresh your stream, Azurest. Alright. Yeah, that goes to, if anyone's having problems, refresh your page first. The Dark Knight TM, Rage's War on, the Joker TM, and Batman TM, the video game. Yeah, so let's check this out. Greetings, Batbrain. Are you ready to meet your destiny? When you reach the end of the 5th level, you'll come face to face with the Joker himself. The Joker isn't kidding around either. When you confront the master criminal of Gotham in the bell tower, he'll brandish a long pistol with incredible destructive power, help Batman exact revenge on the murderer of his parents, and clean up Gotham City. Yeah, traditionally, it is a random street thug named Joe Chill that killed Batman's parents, but in the film version from 1989 with Tim Burton, it was actually the Joker. Welcome, Batman. Why don't you look at my latest work of art? So that's the scene where he's in the museum. I like how Batman, they don't put the trademark symbol, but Vicky Vale, they put the trademark symbol. Joker, the city's evil leader. The city's evil leader, as though the Joker is actually in charge of it's like the Joker actually sees control of Gotham as the dictator of the city. He's in charge of its underworld, but he's not. Now look at this. In the 90s, my family rented the TurboGrafx 16 with Keith Courage, Bomberman 93, Air Zonk. Yeah, this was arguably an 8-bit system, arguably a 16-bit system, definitely fun, the TurboGrafx-16. This was the console that me and my family rented. We didn't rent the CD add-on, but we, Air Zonk, Bomberman 93, Keith Courage, definitely tons of fun. Battled Galaga Invaders into 1990. We looked at this in the other magazine. No, yeah, we did. It was a Nintendo Power, I think. And here at this point, the ads were definitely better differentiated. In the first couple of EGMs. Yeah, Address, it looks like they're having severe weather impact their internet quality. Hopefully, things, I know, and also, I live in an apartment tower, and I knew I've definitely had my share of, bad experiences with, internet quality living in this apartment tower. But yeah, the ads in the first few issues of EGM were basically indistinguishable from the actual content, which is probably an FTC violation even back then. But we've got Hal's Intros Pinball and Puzzler as first portable titles. So let's check this out. This is what we came here for. With Game Boy third-party development now in full swing, we're starting to see the exciting and challenging titles that have been promised since the Game Boy's initial launch. I sure am sick of playing Tennis and Alleyway. Tennis I understand, but come on. Alleyway, this is a good game. But anyway, one of the first NES developers to get into the Game Boy in a big way is HAL America, who have promised two new titles that hold a lot of promise. The first is Revenge of the Gator, an interesting pinball title that uses alligators for targets. The playfield is comprised of 4 separate boards that change as the ball is launched higher into the screen. The layout doesn't scroll, instead it changes quickly as the ball enters a new area. There are secondary targets in the playfield that can help boost the scores or send you into any of the game's 3 different bonus rounds. First, you must knock down targets and get the ball up certain rails or onto specific kickers to enter these. HAL's second title, the ancient puzzle game Shanghai, is a decent Game Boy cart next to impossible to play in standard mode. The Japanese characters are virtually indistinguishable, but HAL has insisted that an American version that uses letters and numbers. So, looks like my stream has disconnected again. So I'll be back in a moment.